Hey girl, hey, welcome to Aging Gracefully, the podcast about all things health and wellness for women of color over 40. This is a brand new podcast coming to you from your girl Gracesandra. This is also a video podcast which you can find on my YouTube channel, Out Here Trying to Survive. Out Here Tryna, spelled Tryna, or you can go to my website, outheretrynasurvive.com, and get links for all of the things. But I am a little nervous, so for those of you on YouTube, I'm going to try not to look at the camera just so I can focus on the fact that I'm doing a podcast right now. This is really different for me, but I'm excited. So I'm Grace. For those of you who don't know me, I am a twice divorced single mom of 3. I'm a mom who considers myself to be a mental health advocate. I'm a justice activist. I'm a writer. I'm a lot of things, y'all. Take a deep breath. But the one thing that I'm doing that is outside of my control is aging. So this podcast is about aging, and what I want to do is age gracefully. Yes, it's a play on words, of course, but I also want to age gracefully, fully me, and fully into who I am and who I'm meant to be. I'm so nervous. But part of why I want to do this is because I feel like we live in an incredibly ageist society, right? We hate aging, really, like as a culture, you know, women, and I'm not no judgment, but we're doing everything we can to take the grays out of our hair and reduce the sagging lines and to keep the titties upright and all of the things that we're doing to reverse aging because it's seen as a bad thing. I see it in literally everything and everywhere. Actually, I was just reading a book last night with my daughter, Princess of Avalor. And Shuriki, when she's an evil queen or whatever, and when her power is overtaken, she becomes old. As soon as her wand is cracked, she becomes like an old lady and all gray. And when I turned the page and saw that, and saw that, my daughter was like, ew, she's 6.5. And I was like, wow, that's very ageist. Like the bad thing that happened to her as a result of being an evil queen instead of, like, I don't know, anything, but she turned old. And I think that's the storyline in Tangled too, if I'm not wrong. But as we can see, it's not hard to see that there's something about this whole thing of how much value you have, right, when you're not young and beautiful and perky anymore. But then there's also all of these issues that come with it. That's why I want this podcast to be both about mental health and wellness over 40. So this is kind of an introduction. This is a very brief introduction to this podcast, also because I'm just figuring out how to get it all set up and, you know, just do all the things, because I have the YouTube channel, but I've never added the audio component and all of this, so forgive me. Let me just take a deep breath because your girl is nervous. I also decided I'm going to be filming this live. Not necessarily live, like streaming live, but I'm not going to do edits. I'm going to just try to record the audio, record the video, and just send it. So y'all are going to get the rawest version of me, which on YouTube, I edit my videos to death. I edit out my breaths. So this is a really different format for me. So just in the last few years, I've really started thinking about how my age is affecting me in a few key areas. And that's where I want to start in these few episodes, just with what I know. I also want to say I'm not a therapist in any way. Nothing. I'm never going to give medical advice. I'm never going to give therapeutic advice. I'm just a regular schmegular woman who has a lot of mental health issues that I bring into it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be talking about that on my channel on Wednesday. So I'm a regular schmegular, okay? And what I want to do is share how aging has affected me so much in the past just 3 years, how I've seen it. And I'm just going to name a few of the ways. Hopefully y'all can get a picture of what I'm talking about. So one of the ways, of course, is perimenopause. So I have noticed that it's been crazy, just all out full on craziness. I'm going to devote a whole episode just to perimenopause because it's been insane. So that's one way. Another way is in dating. So I am twice divorced, like I mentioned, and I've been out here in these streets dating, and one thing I've noticed is I look a little bit younger than I am. People often think I'm about 36, which, hey, that's awesome. Thank God. Yes. See, even I'm saying it. I mean, but who doesn't like people saying they look younger than they are? So it's a nice compliment. It's not really anything I've done. I think it's just genetics. You know, I do collagen powder, but it's mostly genetics. My mom looked really young for a really long time. But as a result, I've attracted younger men. And when I say younger men, I mean, you know, between like 32 and 36. Between 32 and 38 is like the general age of men who've really hardcore trying to approach me, and me being like, hey, did you notice my age on the profile? The big area that's become problematic is because for some of those men in that age range, if they haven't had kids, they still want to have a baby, and that's a big issue. And actually my last long-term relationship, the shift before it got into a mess was because he really wanted to have a baby because he had never had one. And I was like, at that point I was 44. I was like, I'm not doing this again. I already have 3. I'm not doing it again. And he was talking about, he was ready for me to like use a surrogate and all these things. And I had for a little while considered that, but realized that's still a lot of pressure on me and my body and pushing it to its limit, trying to get ripe eggs and all of that. But it's also been an issue with dating as well, with some of the men who are older, my own age, being attracted to women who are actually younger than me. Not just who look young, but who are actually younger, which is just this weird dynamic I didn't expect. And then there's been the issue of life stage, you know, for me as a older woman who's 46 with kids. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and a elementary school kid. And a lot of the men that I have considered who are a little bit older or who are my own age, they don't have kids anymore, or their kids are grown up and they don't really want to deal with all of that. So that's on the dating side. Okay, so then we've got the other issues, the hormonal issues that have arisen, the hormonal spikes, irregular periods. Some of these are part of perimenopause. I just literally burped, y'all. I am so bad at podcasting. God, Jesus, help me. Anyway, I think career is another thing that's really like a big deal for this age range. And for me, I'm in this really weird spot too, because like up until now, all of my major career milestones have come and gone, and they've primarily peaked and then ended when I've had personal major crises, like peaked, had a divorce, catapulted down. Catapulted is not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. Hit rock bottom. And then peaked a little bit with a few opportunities, but then I went through a really torrential, abusive marriage dynamic, and then that just totally just shot me and everything I was trying to do. I was primarily at that point trying to be an author for years and years up until then. But the weight of the 2 marriages, and especially the abusive marriage and the divorce, just like crushed. So I'm rebuilding now, but I'm rebuilding at such an older age than a lot of women who are at my age who are already really successful. So I'm actually coming from the opposite end. So if you're someone who you're like older like me and you're not really successful in any way, and you're really just trying to find your voice and trying to find your place in the world after having some career success or not, and just starting from the bottom, I feel like I'm literally starting from the bottom in a lot of ways. Like I literally just got out of college. Like I'm 28 and I'm like, hey, what am I going to do in this world? But I'm also finding I'm way more tired. I'm just way more tired. And I'm not talking about my physical body, which, you know, I think I am more tired more often. My son said something to me the other day. It was really interesting. It was just yesterday or the day before. It was Saturday. So we were just kind of hanging out, the kids and I. And my son said, I don't know, I said something about being tired. And he was like, Mama, you're always tired. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, ever since I've known you, you've always been tired. I was like, you mean since you were a baby? Like that's when you started knowing me? And he was like, yeah, like all my life, you've always been tired. Yeah, that really hit me. It really, really hit me. And I didn't say anything because I could tell I was ready to be defensive. Well, like maybe if your daddy and maybe if I hadn't went through this and that, and you know, I wanted to be like super defensive and just, you know, also like you have no idea what it feels like to, you know, have this physical drain of having a period every month. And you know, I wanted to go into all of the reasons that I'm tired and all the trauma I've had since he's been born and everything that life is throwing me, and how hard I work just to keep a roof over their head, and how ever since he's known me for all 17 years of his life, I've been working like crazy. And you know, it's obvious he's a little boy, y'all. He is a little boy. He's a man child, and he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, because any of my, you know, anyone who knows me and loves me, who's a good friend with a modicum of emotional intelligence would know, like, yeah, of course, a middle-aged woman who's been divorced twice with 3 kids is going to be tired all the time. I literally think the moment a woman has any child, let alone 3, we just start being tired. Like, I kind of want to be like, little bro, like, I haven't slept for consecutive years since you and your siblings were born. You know, so I could feel all the defensiveness in me, so I didn't say anything to him. I just was like, oh, that's all I said. But I thought about it, y'all. That was just 2 days ago. Actually, today's Sunday. That was yesterday. That was just yesterday, and I have thought about it since then. I mean, I have really pondered. Like, this little bro just, it felt like such a knock on me. But I know it's not. And maybe one day I will have a conversation with him like, you know, women go through a lot. Help me. We go through it so much, but when you're my age, like, you feel a physical exhaustion about more than just your body. Like, you're tired. You're tired because there's the weight of the oppression of women on your shoulders in a lot more ways. When you read it in the news stories, when you see it, when you hear about your friends, when you see your friends, you know, doing what I did, trying to leave an abusive marriage, and the amount of mental energy that takes, but also the amount of mental energy it takes for women to be successful, to climb these glass ceilings or whatever. But it also takes an enormous amount of mental energy to be poor. And that's actually something that I want to talk about at some point in this podcast, of how aging and money hits us. Because for me, like, I've been in such a financial battle for like a really long time. That's another thing my son doesn't really fully understand, but he will one day. But women are feeling so tired. I saw this quote. There's a quote I put on Instagram, or I'm sorry, I put on Facebook a few different times, but basically it's a quote that says, all the women in me are tired. And I remember seeing that and like getting it at like a very fundamental level. It's not just physical. Like, as you get older, you see so much and you're so deeply disappointed. You have to choose so often to really, really find joy in the everyday. You have to really choose, like, how can I be very grateful for what I have, the people in my life, the health that I do have, even though I might have health that I don't have, if you know what I'm saying, especially if you're dealing with mental health issues like I have. You know, you have to think about the trauma that you've been through and choose to forgive. If you really want to be a more evolved person, I do believe that there is forgiveness, at least release, needs to happen. There's just so much that goes into aging gracefully. And for me, that is a core value. So this podcast is for you if aging gracefully is a core value of something you really want to do. Like, you really want to figure out how to live well. That's what I really want this to be about, because that's really what I'm about. I really want to live well. I really want to age, not just beautifully, not like just the physical, which yes, that would be lovely, but more in terms of like the legacy that I leave for my kids and for the people I love. And ultimately for me, it's a lot about Black women, because that's something I felt from a very, very young age that was part of my calling. And actually, I kind of want to go into that story. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in the next episode I could go into that, and why my channel's for Black women and why my podcast is for Black women. And I had a platform that I was trying to build. Remind me to never film at night again. I'm so tired. But I had a platform that I was trying to build of the same name, Out Here Trying to Survive, which is going to be, and I might still get back to this at some point, but abuse recovery, because I went through really severe narcissistic abuse and it just took the life out of me. Like, literally, it was like a dementor over me, sucking the life out of me, and it just flattened me. And I'm still in recovery from that situation. And I have complex PTSD as a result of that situation that's in some ways has gotten a little out of control at times, and I can go into more of that later in future episodes. But that's me. That's where I'm coming from in some way that has to do with where I'm at in my life stage, because I really love sharing and I love sharing my life. So that's what I'll be doing on here, is sharing my life, sharing stories, sharing tips, sharing antidotes, sharing ways that we can hopefully just get better together. So I hope you will join me on this fun journey, and probably next time you see the setup will be a little different, because I'm going to try to figure it out. I think right now I just look orange in the video. I'm not even sure which microphone is recording, this one or this one. I don't know. I'm still very new to this. But thank you so much for thank you so much for listening. If this even gets out there, I hope it does. All right, I will catch y'all later, I guess.